Hello everyone and welcome to another video where I will be with my brother Max and my friend Ryan analyzing one of my games that wasn't brilliancies all over but certainly demonstrated progression throughout the game. So the game started with d4, d5, c4. This is known as the Queen's Gambit. In my mind it's not really a gambit because white kind of gets immediately compensation or material back, but c6. This is the Slav defense, which is a solid way of declining the Queen's Gambit. We have knight f3, bishop f5, with the idea of after letting this bishop out, e6, and black will have a very solid position. g3, preparing the nice g2 square for the bishop, e6, bishop g2, h6. This move might be a little unnecessary, but I can see why it's played, to prevent bishop g5. We have castles, knight f6, rook e1, supporting the push of the e-pawn at any moment. Bishop d6, queen b3, queen b6. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the position?
Okay, so right now you can play. There's lots of choices here. So can you go back to move?
Sure. Yeah, queen b3.
You can play queen. There's three main choices for black: queen c7, queen c8, and queen b6. First, we'll look at queen c7. So after, can you put it on the board?
Yeah, I put queen c7 on the board.
After queen c7 is played, an interesting move is c5. A move that would normally be quite committal, allowing black to have a lot of power on the king side and a lot of free reign after potentially pushing e5. But after bishop e7 gets played by black, you'll notice that there's a very strong bishop f4 move, which seems to gain quite a nice position for white, gaining a very nice bishop on that diagonal and lots of dark square control. So if instead, can you scroll up a bit?
Do you want?
So instead, black can play queen c7 or d7, queen c8. I meant. Or
yeah, queen c8.
d7, with the idea that they're both very similar moves, but with the idea that if c5 is played, this is now quite a nice position for black after bishop c7 is played, and now black will have a lot of kingside control, and you'll see that black has a slight edge here.
I do agree.
So,
yeah, I think white's center looks a bit, suspicious, especially after a move like e3 needs to be played. It doesn't look the greatest because the b pawn, the a pawn, they're sort of blocked.
Yeah, and black has ideas of e5 supported by that c7 bishop, and if black can actually get that in, possibly with some rook e8 later ideas, their position will be crushing on the king side.
Also, if you go back a move, a couple of moves to where queen c8 gets played.
Queen c8, got it.
I think that would have been the best try.
I agree.
The best move for black.
For sure.
Or queen d7 might have been a bit better, but it does take away a square from the knight, and the queen on c8 is a bit passive, which I think is why.
Queen b6.
Is why your opponents prefer to play queen b6. I think.
Yeah, the d7 square really belongs for the knight.
And here, white plays the very interesting decision, c5. The idea of this is it forces a queen trade, because if you don't trade, you lose the bishop to a fork. So queen takes, pawn takes, and now
bishop c7 is played.
Okay, well, first I want to mention that the queen trade does give white double pawns, b3 and b2. White is actually not scared of these pawns because b4 and now later b5 ideas of breaking through on the king side give white so much activity. And I'll be talking about the later moves black played. So black in this position played bishop c7, though there's a few options that black could have tried. One would be bishop e7. The only other retreat, bishop f8 just stops casting rights, so bishop e7, and the bishop has hopes on this diagonal later in the game. But and also another interesting idea is bishop takes b1.
The computer move.
Yes, and after rook takes b1, even though black gave a seemingly good bishop, it cancels out all of white's kind of queenside play. This rook is not really active, and now the b2 and b3 pawns aren't as menacing, and there are no knight c3 ideas to support b5. So that's an interesting way.
I'll say that this is a very engine-ish idea.
Yeah.
But like, if you take a look at it,
It just is good.
It does it for a reason. It's giving it away. It's like bad bishop on f5 because although it looks pretty nice, it's trapped by all of its pawns. It doesn't really have anywhere to go.
And something also, just to add 2 more lines, if in this position, if bishop takes b1, this would actually be a bad move because suddenly now white gets a good bishop and this pawn is somewhat overextended. Black will try to find some way to win it.
That like you don't want the knight coming to c3, and if you go back to where bishop takes b1 is played, the knights in this position are actually better than the bishops because this is actually a closed position, which means that the knights will be a lot more potent than the bishops.
Yeah,
as the using the good bishop on d6 isn't very good. It's very restricted.
Yeah,
okay.
Interesting. All right, so anyways, bishop c7 was played.
Hold on, wait, Max. I want to go back quickly to this analysis after bishop takes b1, and if c takes d6. I wanted to clear some things up. If after this, for example, they just got their good bishop, and white just defends. After king e7, g5 becomes a threat, and this pawn's a bit hard to hold on to.
Wait, but hold up. I don't think king e7 works because this knight's
Oh, yeah, actually.
So instead, probably trading off that good knight.
And then, king e7.
King e7 now.
King d7.
Really just hating on the bishops here.
Exactly. Okay, so, anyways, bishop c7 was played. Staying on this decent diagonal, sorry.
And also, I want to note that bishop e7 might have been a bit less
aggressive,
good because this would have given the knight the powerful e5 square.
Also, if you keep the bishop on c7,
well, for one, it could be challenged. But yeah, you're right.
If you keep the bishop on c7, you allow e4 ideas. So I'm just bringing that up.
All right.
Anyways, b4. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this move?
So this idea, the idea of this is, white's gonna try and analyze, pressure the queen side with moves like b5 in the future, really using those double pawns that they gained after the queen trade on b3 to put pressure on black with the queen side, and as you'll see later, really just fight against black's bishops, as we've already noted, that the bishops aren't the best in this closed position. So we're really going to be fighting against this c7 bishop, as we've already asserted some dark square dominance. We're going to be trying to fight more against that bishop, which is why bishop takes b1 is still a good move, preventing knight to c3, and which would help support b5.
Okay. Well, b4 was played, then a6 and knight c3. So black didn't take the chance on bishop takes b1, so knight c3 just reinforces the defense of b5. And here comes what I view as the first real inaccuracy of this game, knight b to d7. Because at first, it seems like the b5 square, black doesn't need to worry about pawn to b5 because it's defended twice. But the defense of the a6 pawn on the b5 square is actually invalid because it's defended. So how does white take advantage of this? Well, b5. And I'll let Ryan comment on this after a quick, show of variations. After c takes b5, white can play the strong move knight takes b5. And if a takes b5, rook takes a8, and that's just winning for white. They're up in exchange. So Ryan, what are your views on 13b5?
So my views on this are, since you can't really take, this is really just threatening b6, which is why a6 might have been a bit of a weakening move, allowing for b6 further, because a6 really just weakened the dark squares and really allowed us to fight for them. So after castles, we're allowed to kind of just paralyze this bishop with b6, because after bishop d7, maybe it'll have a pretty good life. Maybe it'll have an okay life.
Yeah.
But this it really isn't doing anything.
So
and after black's decision, bishop d8, which I would say from the human point of view is a major mistake.
yeah. Wait, Ryan, can I comment on this? So, so black really has two sensible retreats: bishop to d8 and bishop to b8. Bishop to b8, as we see later in the game, now this bishop is, as Ryan said, paralyzed. All of this f4 square, this e7, all of these squares are basically controlled by white. And as Lulu points out, it loses the connection between both rooks. While bishop to d8, maybe bishop to e7 in the future, connecting back these rooks, and it could have a life on this diagonal.
I also want to comment on this move. If players support bishop b8, that's probably because they might believe e5 is kind of the only way to get counterplay, and they might want to support e5 with their bishop. But I just really don't really see how to continue after e5.
And e5 was tried in the game, so we'll look at that.
Yeah. So we played b4, again going for the same weaknesses on the queen side.
So b5 is threatened.
Yep, e5, and then e3. So we're still not trading off, because if we do this, then it gives black some counterplay. So we just want to keep the position closed and keep that bishop paralyzed. Okay. Yeah, I actually would take with the knight here. Because after the exchange, now that's better. Anyways, e3 was played. Rook e8, just, getting the rook better, although it doesn't do much. b5. E takes d4, e takes d4. An alternative to view was b takes c6 first, and after b takes c6, we have knight takes d4, just hammering down on this weak c6 pawn. It's just, now the rook has to go to c8, and this is just an ugly position. Actually, it can't even go to...
see, the knight's being more powerful than the bishop's here.
Yeah. So, anyways... e takes d4. I didn't really take advantage of the c6 stuff. And then rook takes c1, knight takes c1. a5. So this is interesting because here I also missed out after rook e8, e4. So after e4, it's always a move you need to consider, but I think e4 is a bit weakening because it gives white this opportunity of knight d2, rook e8, and then knight b3 with the idea of going to a5 and hitting on that weak b7 pawn. Just something I just wanted to point out. Anyways, rook e8, b5, e takes d4, e takes d4, rook takes c1, knight takes e1, and then a5.
I want to mention why a5 was played because it does seem counterintuitive. So if a move like g5 was instead played, then we could just, again, hammer on the weaknesses with b takes e6, b takes e6. And now the engine recommends bishop e3, but I feel like more natural would be knight c... Well, no, sorry. So first you would try
maybe bishop f1.
Yeah, bishop f1, and hammer down on these weaknesses and also, again, an interesting moment that we actually considered was knight b5, and this does...
No, that wasn't now. That was after.
Yeah, it was not now, but not now.
It's interesting,
but it's good. There's some ideas.
Yeah, I'll point that out when it can actually be played. So a5 was played, and bishop f1, knight e4, and here I played bishop d3. After knight df6, b takes c6, b takes c6.
Wait, guys.
Yeah?
I think we need to note the point of bishop d3.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So bishop d3.
Bishop to d3 is after knight takes c3, we'll take the bishop, and we're hitting this knight, which, it can go to the f6, but here it's just not a great position. We can go after the weaknesses with bishop c8 and knight here, and And well, what are you doing about this,
Yeah.
right?
Also,
So
wait, Ryan,
so-
can I point something out?
Also, it looks like Black may have a tactic. If instead of playing knight takes c3, Black played knight takes g3, saying, haha, if you take my bishop, I take back. With my knight, and my knight's no longer in danger.
But it doesn't work.
But we can instead take the knight, and after bishop takes, our bishop is defended, meaning that we're just up a piece. And I would argue even more than a piece, because would you really count that rook and that bishop as pieces?
It's like just paralyzed.
Neither of them have any squares that don't gain themselves.
Okay, so anyway, bishop to d3 was played.
Knight df6, just solidifying that arguably good knight that they finally managed to put in the center of the board. B takes c6, b takes c6, f3. Now this is an inaccuracy.
First, I want to go to this part. This b pawn is actually passed and defended. This is the main reason why white has a significant advantage, even though material is equal. All right.
Okay, so
Black's bishop is paralyzed.
yeah, again and again it's paralyzed. So f3 is the first inaccuracy of the game. But first I want to focus on, not the first, it was an inaccuracy. I want to focus on why I played f3 though. Because I was hoping to provoke knight takes c3 and then bishop takes f5. And in this variation it does hang a pawn, but my goal was to get the bishop off, not guarding b1, so I could go rook b1 and then b7. And then hopefully in the future, bishop c8. However, it does hang a pawn, so knight e2 was played, king f2, and this pawn hangs. However, they missed out on that and just took the bishop. That was just a mistake.
Wait. Yeah, but now the position is just winning for white. But can you go back for a bit?
The knight b5 movement.
A bit.
Oh yeah, further. Instead of f3, I was looking at. Instead of f3, I was looking at knight b5.
Yeah.
And after takes, black has some ways of defending, like bishop to d7 or even bishop to d6. Bishop e7.
Also, the rest, this is very hard to defend. If you go back a move, can you go back a move?
Yeah, for sure. Here?
You know that this is very hard to defend. When you see the computer move, like a couple seconds ago, it was bishop to d6.
But remember, white already sacrificed a piece, so bishop to d6, you're sacrificing it back. Though white is like in knight takes d6, material is even, and white lost all of their queen flag play. So that's mainly why knight b5 doesn't work.
But it's a cool idea, but it just doesn't work because of a very awkward computer move.
What does keep an advantage, however?
A slight one,
Can you just go back?
Yeah, sure.
Instead, knight d2 is a top move.
Yeah.
Because here this comes with a serious threat of f6 now. Because you can't defend
You mean
the
f3?
bishop with the knight either way, because then it will be captured and you don't have a very good way of stopping this. You can play g6 or something like that, but then after f3, something like knight g5 will be played. Then you can take the bishop. No, you can take that bishop.
And then f5?
Now black, on top of the fact that your pawns are so strong, completely limiting their play, you've given them doubled isolated pawns and lots of pawns.
Yeah, okay, so there was a lot of arrows just drawn, but this just proves that white has an excellent position here.
And knight takes f3, it's interesting, but white doesn't care about a pawn because after this, they just have crushing, just note that the safe
Excellent play.
They have excellent play on...
You can't really also save this pawn too. It's undefendable. Okay, so anyways, f3 was an inaccuracy. Knight takes c3, bishop takes f5, and then knight e2 check. King f2, this was the mistake. They could have won the pawn. Rook takes c1, a4, just trying to get all the counterplay they can with that passed a pawn, but it's really nothing. After rook a1, a3, knight c2, a2, knight b4, that pawn is lost.
And the c6, which might be a more important pawn.
Because,
Guys.
You get past connected
Ryan?
pawns.
Knight takes c1 should be marked as a major blunder, because maybe you can argue that you might have something by being up a pawn after you take the d pawn, but you have nothing when you've given, when you're not even the one with the knights, you're just completely dominated
Mhm.
in your position.
Yeah,
after.
and I'm just gonna zoom through on the computer variation, which goes knight to e6, knight to bishop to b7, sorry, bishop to e5, and the computer actually recommends giving away this rook because these passed pawns are going to become so dangerous
No,
in the future.
it's not giving it up. You're attacking.
Yeah,
it.
you're
Oh,
attacking
sorry,
the
sorry.
A1. But it's still interesting how, like, black can't even defend their own rook, so they have to
Yeah,
attack.
But here, white simply has to do this, and this pawn they're going to have
It's
to
just
sacrifice
they're
it.
gonna have sacrifice. It's just an interesting
Bishop e5,
position.
I think bishop f4 wins.
I'm gonna play f4 actually instead.
F4. No, I think f4, just bishop to d6.
No, before instead of bishop b7 because it prevents the bishop to e5 move.
Okay, so instead we have knight takes c1, the blunder, rook takes c1,
A4, rook A1, A3, knight C2, A2, knight B4, rook A4, knight takes C6. See, we don't even take the A2 pawn because
the c6
it's
pawn,
not going
more
anywhere. The
valuable.
C6 pawn we just push B7, bishop C8. It's
And
just
then
so
this
strong.
measly pawn chain, like if we break the base, then we just destroy this and we have 3 passers.
Exactly. So, rook A4 was played, knight takes C6. Rook A8, like black has basically no way to improve. Bishop C8, bishop takes G3 check. I actually was very proud of myself for calculating this out a bit because the idea is H takes G3 and it seems like the bishop's undefended, but rook takes C8 and then the finale, knight E7 check.
Winning the rook and king.
And this is just over because after this is taken, let's say here, say here, the rook's coming over, the pawns are being pushed, there's going to be a queen, black is getting mated, it's just over.
It's overwhelming.
So if you have any thoughts on this game, you can message Master Lucien Jacquon on leechess.org.
Wait, and as a finale, I just want to just look at this, zoom in. As it progresses, the queenside play is just overwhelming. All right.
Anyway, so I'll put all of our Leechess accounts in the description if you want to comment about the games. And thanks for watching.
It was all about just like this one piece. This game, you just dominated the bishop, and then when he finally managed to get rid of it, to get rid of what destroyed his game, it was the losing blunder. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was stuck with it all game, and once he finally managed to get rid of it, it was losing a rook.
Okay. Well, bye, and see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.